reactions in Parliament over release of funds for day-to-day business of the House.
The government courts interest groups to implement landscapes and restoration project designed to reclaim degraded mined sites. Boost for organic fertilizer production as Agric Ministry offers support for local companies. And Malawi slashes the value of its currency, the kwacha, by 25% as part of IMF's new financial assistance program.
Good evening. Time for News Live. We are live on GTV and TV. My name is Clara Mlano.
And my name is Jonathan Thompson, and from Pomanso standing by with the sign language.
On Friday morning, the Majority Chief Whip, Mr. Frank Anodompre, announced to the media that a 25 million cedi allocation for Parliament has been released.
He added that a little restraint from the Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Alban Bagbin, would have forestalled any embarrassments. On Thursday, the Speaker of Parliament cautioned the Finance Minister, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, not to treat Parliament like the MMDAs by asking for budget cuts and starving the House of funds.
I was in touch with the Majority Leader. He gave me heads up in terms of what communication had gone on and the fact that the releases had been done. I'm talking about a 25 million outstanding goods and service to Parliament. So yesterday when the Speaker was lamenting, indeed, officially the release had been effected. It was just going through the process. The communication often comes from Finance Ministry. It goes to Controller. Controller does the releases. It goes to BOG before it hits the account of Parliament. That is the normal process. So the process had kickstarted, and so it was just a matter of few hours for it to hit Parliament's account. Interestingly, I think around 2 to 3 p.m. I got a confirmation from Parliament that the money has indeed hit the account. The clerk failed to update the Speaker accordingly because the Speaker's statement was a bit presumptuous. It creates an image of our country and it's not too good, especially in the face of the fact that the releases had been done and was just going through the process. Not just the 25 million goods and services, there's also a release of 50 million to the NHI, because there was also some outstanding, and that has been confirmed by the Controller, and NHI has accordingly also confirmed that amount.
Meanwhile, the Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Alban Bagbin, is not happy with pronouncements made by the Majority Chief Whip, Mr. Frank Anodompre, on the non-funding of the House.
And Parliament is not supreme, we subject to the Constitution. And so it's important that when the Speaker speaks, the leader of the members of Parliament is not seen to be the one countering what the spokesperson of the arm of government says. And if they want us to give documentary evidence about the non-funding of the House for this year, we will provide them. So when I heard that the leader of the House has gone on air to say that that's not true, it saddens me. In response to what I said yesterday, the government proceeded to release quickly to the House to enable the House function. There's evidence to that. I will not take the Majority Leader always going on air to counter what I say, particularly when I say it on the chair. I am in control here, and I'll continue to be in control until my term of office ends, or you decide otherwise as members to remove me as the Speaker of the House by the votes of 3/4.
Teachers in the country challenged to take up leading roles in the education of Ghanaians on threats of terrorism facing the country at an engagement between the Ministry of National Security and the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, on to address heightened security threats. The National Security Coordinator, Major General Francis Edu Amanfo, explained that as critical agents of development, teachers could help in averting the threats and promote safety and security of the citizenry by educating students and the larger population on emerging security threats and potential breaches.
Security experts suggest that due to a recent surge in extremism, violent groups, coup d'etats, cyber fraud, piracy and other security threats in the West African sub-region, there was the need to raise consciousness about the threats to keep the public alert. The engagement with the Ghana National Association of Teachers followed the launch of a citizens' awareness campaign by the ministry aimed at protecting the country against terrorist attacks. Dubbed See Something, Say Something, the campaign encourages the public to be vigilant of the activities of suspicious characters and report such activities and characters to the security agencies. Detailing recent terrorism activities, the National Security Strategy of Ghana, developed in 2020, Major General Amanfo said 49% of terrorism attacks have occurred in the West African sub-region with modified operational modules, including the use of improvised explosive devices, IEDs, and minefields. He said Ghana's alarming threats of terrorism has been heightened by chieftaincy disputes, kidnappings, murder, secessionist attempts, robbery, among others.
Following the launch of the National Security Strategy in June 2021, the Ministry of National Security is more guided by the concept of a whole of and a whole of society approach, which is a strategy that requires the engagement of all of us with a vision to maintain Ghana as a law-abiding, tolerant, socially cohesive, peace-loving, people-centered, secure and prosperous constitutional democracy.
National President of NAT, Reverend Dr. Isaac Owusu, said Ghana's terrorism threat is heightened if people feel they have been neglected in the distribution of the national cake. He called on government to focus on the provision of social amenities and roll out policies that will help improve lives in rural areas and deprived communities.
Some people are not happy, especially if you look at those working within the deprived areas of this country. The social amenities are not there. People are working without electricity. People are working at a place where there is no hospitals, where there are no police posts, and their safetyness of the place that they are staying becomes very difficult for them. So I believe that the security of this nation should be a concern for all of us.
The General Secretary of NAT, Mr. Thomas Musa, said the group recognizes its role in shaping the mindset of students and the larger population on the need to work together towards national survival and resist extremist influence, and is partnering with the national security to improve intelligence gathering as threats of terror attacks in the sub-region intensify.
And the National Security Ministry is urging Ghanaians to desist from making prank calls to the 999 call center as it undermines the ability of law enforcement agencies to effectively respond to actual crises. According to the ministry, the center has received more than 10,000 calls in the first 30 minutes following the launch of the See Something, Say Something campaign, majority of which were prank calls. The ministry assured the public of the activeness of the call center and encouraged people to report all suspicious persons and activities. The See Something, Say Something campaign, national security strategy aimed at encouraging citizens to report suspicious persons or activities to enable the state to respond swiftly to any potential terrorist attacks.
Government is courting the support of key stakeholders towards the implementation of what is called the Ghana Landscapes and Restoration Project which is designed to help reclaim degraded mine sites for viable agricultural activities for local communities, among others.
Landscape restoration and small-scale mining project is a joint Government of Ghana and World Bank initiative which focuses on the restoration of degraded lands for agricultural productivity, strengthening sustainable management of forest landscapes, for ecosystem and biodiversity conservation, and formalization of illegal artisanal and small-scale mining, among others. This project comes in the wake of the destruction of the environment and water bodies by illegal mining activities. The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and the Environmental Protection Agency, being the key drivers, brought together all stakeholders in the chain to deliberate and seek their cooperation for the successful execution of the project. At the forum in Takwa, a Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources in charge of mining, Mr. George Mreku Duka, said the innovation is one of the best multi-sector approaches and comprehensive ways of dealing with the issues affecting the small-scale mining sector.
And for this reason, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, under the able leadership and direction of the Sector Minister, Honorable Samuel A. Jinapo, we have adopted several policies to promote responsible small-scale mining. We have also resourced and retooled the Minerals Commission to effectively perform its regulatory functions, declared river bodies and forest reserves as red zones for mining.
The national coordinator of the project, Mr. John Kinsey Kruku, highlighted the mode of implementation. Two approaches are being used concurrently to achieve the desired goals. These are the institutional approach, where key stakeholders are expected to buy into the concept, and then also the use of the security services in special operations such as Galamstop and Operation Halt 2.
The geological investigation will allocate mineable land to small-scale miners, and there are two benefits to that the small-scale miner would not just start digging from anywhere, but more importantly, the small-scale miner will have sufficient information in the concession that is given to them, so they can go to the bank and get investment to be able to do it.
Some participants who spoke to GBC News shared varied views on the project.
And back here in the capital, the Ghana Institute of Journalism has organized its maiden research presentation seminar for beneficiaries of the Lebanon Government Scholarship Program. Beneficiaries of the Master's Degree Scholarship Program presented outcomes of their research, which were centered on both Lebanese and Ghanaian cultures.
The Lebanese community in Ghana is an organization which awards scholarships to finance brilliant but needy students pursuing their degree and masters at the Ghana Institute of Journalism, University of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST, School of Languages and the Performing Arts. Lebanon's ambassador to Ghana spoke about the need to expose the Lebanese cultural cooperation and be empowered with adequate information about Lebanon-Ghana relations.
This ethic will help you become much more professional in your line of work while removing barriers that divide people.
At the maiden mini seminar, various speakers made presentations on carefully selected topics. The Dean of the School of Graduate Studies and Research, Dr. Collins Edubempa Brobe, spoke to GBC News.
The main purpose of this event is to allow the beneficiaries of the Lebanese scholarship to share their excerpt of their dissertation that they conducted.
On behalf of the beneficiaries, Mr. Joseph Bezuke was grateful for the kind gesture and advised the continuing students to focus on their studies.
The government has announced that it is proactively working with local fertilizer producers to produce quality organic fertilizers on a large scale for farmers across the country. This is to address the shortage of agrochemicals in the country. At a media briefing in Accra, the Minister for Agriculture, Dr. Efri Akoto, says agriculture has taken a huge premium on the international market, adding that the mass production of quality organic fertilizer will make Ghana less dependent on inorganic fertilizer.
Efri Akoto was briefing journalists following a stakeholder meeting with local fertilizer producers on the production and promotion of quality organic fertilizers domestically in Accra. He attributed the acute shortage of agrochemicals generally and fertilizers in particular to the war between Russia and Ukraine amid the international sanctions on Russia. These developments, he said, were breaking the supply chain of fertilizer and making global trading very difficult, and Ghana was no exception.
As we speak, we have a shortage of fertilizer in the system. Last year, if you compare at the end of May for the last 4 years, the amount of fertilizer distributed to our farmers, you will see a sharp drop this year. From January to May, the amounts that have been distributed and nothing to write home about.
Dr. Efri Akoto was optimistic that in the wake of the challenge above, a significant amount of organic fertilizer production
solutions to ensure that farmers are supplied with the right chemicals. The essence of planting for food and jobs is basically to improve farm productivity, especially on smallholder farms.
The minister said Ghana abounds with loads of raw materials for fertilization, which included garbage and fauna. He applauded the efforts of Zoom Lion Ghana Limited for investing hugely in using waste to produce organic fertilizers. The demand for fertilizer in the country is about 600,000 metric tons.
With an aim to improve on Africa's capacity in international trade laws, the 2022 ANSI Trial for Africa has been launched in Accra. This sets in motion the event scheduled for September this year. The 2022 event focuses on the development of the legal framework to implement AFTA commitments in the area of international trade.
With the launch over, activities of the Ancestral Days project in Africa is on course. The plan is to encourage participation from African universities by organizing events in the last quarter of the year. Since 1966, Ancestral Days celebrate both the establishment of the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, raise awareness of their instruments and the importance of legal harmonization among law students and policymakers.
I therefore urge the Ghana Law School, the Gempa Law School, and Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy, as well as the Foreign Service Institute and similar institutions in Africa, to include aspects of commercial law within a central's remits in their curriculum and to work toward the understanding and practical application of rules as well as Africa's effective contribution.
Ancestral Text offers a tool to make state-to-state commitment in AFCFTA a practical reality.
The work of Ancestral could provide answers to challenges confronting our region. Among them, how to promote an enabling environment for trade facilitation in the digital economy, secure access to trade financing, provide simplified insolvency regime and harmonized legal framework for a fair and efficient settlement of commercial international investment disputes, including mediation.
Ancestral also develops legal text which Ghana has implemented, underpinning the country's business-ready and investor-friendly environment.
More importantly, the organization of the event in Ghana is a recognition of Ghana as one of the most favorable economies in West Africa. The government's commitment to enhance the business-friendly environment in the country and Ghana's contribution to the AFCFTA, in addition to hosting the AFCFTA Secretariat here in Accra.
Ghana has been an active participant in Ancestral since its establishment in 1966. For GBC News, Shirley Annan reporting.
Okra or okra soup, also known as dross soup, is a combination of meat and vegetables fused together in the right conditions to make a very sumptuous meal. Okra soup is a fascinating dish because of its many permutations across West Africa. This is one kind of soup that impresses many children due to the fact that it easily slides down the throat with any accompaniment. Okra is rich in vitamin C, folic acid, potassium, and vitamin B, and also low in calories with high fiber content. This is a good food for weight control and a sustainable diet. In a jiffy, we will share with you a blow-by-blow approach with the required ingredients to prepare very tasty okra soup on Chopology today.
Let's get our shopping list ready for the market. To prepare okra soup, we need okra, garden eggs, onion, scotch bonnet pepper, tomatoes, tuna, mackerel, wele, crabs, palm oil, garlic, meat, preferably beef, ginger, salted fish or momoni, this is optional, and salt. Wash and cut the meat into pieces and put into a saucepan with chopped onions and salt. Steam on fire. Cut wele into chewy bits and properly wash. Remove the flesh of the mackerel and tuna and break into two and remove the bones. Break into desired sizes and set aside. Also dress the crabs and cook for about 5 minutes on fire. Wash okra and garden eggs. Chop half of the portion of okra you will use, then grate the other half. The smaller you cut the okra, the better the draw will be. Cut the stalks off the garden eggs and cut them in half or in preferred slices. Add the sliced garden eggs to the cut okra and pour into a pot. Add water and put on fire. Let it boil while stirring regularly until the garden eggs turn translucent. Wash onions, tomatoes, pepper and garlic. Blend the pepper, garlic and some onions. Separately blend the tomatoes and slice some onions and put aside. In a separate pot, pour palm oil and put on fire. When the oil is hot, add the sliced onions and the pepper and garlic blend. You can add some ginger blend and momoni, which is absolutely optional. Add some chopped tomatoes. As the mixture softens, add the tomato blend and leave to cook for some minutes before adding your protein, steamed meat, mackerel, tuna, wele and crabs. Once the stew is sufficiently cooked, add the cooked okra and garden eggs. Properly mix it by turning it from the bottom of the pot to the top. The okra is added last in order not to overcook. Correct seasoning. Wash and drop a few scotch bonnet pepper in the soup for color and flavor. Allow the mixture to cook for about 5 to 10 minutes. When ready, serve with banku or any accompaniment of your choice. Food is ready to slide down your throat. Bon appetit!
The Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park is closed temporarily to the public starting today, Friday, May 27, until further notice for major renovation works. A statement signed by the Chief Director at the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Mr. John Yao Agbo, said the closure of the Memorial Park is to allow for an upgrade into a standard one that befits the stature of the former president and also to boost domestic tourism. The Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum is located in downtown Accra. The grounds for the park were built on top of a former British polo ground The design of the monument is an upside-down sword symbolizing peace and is clad with Italian marble with a black star on top symbolizing Pan-African unity.
We'll take a quick break. You're watching a News Hour right here on GBC News. We'll be right back. Let's do business. Brought to you by QNet. Unilever Ghana performance in the year under review shows a 23% increase in revenue from 456 million cedis in 2020 to 559 million cedis in 2021. Giving an overview of the Unilever's performance last year, the board chairman of Unilever Ghana, Mr. Edward Efa, said profits for 2021 stood at 2.8 million cedis.
Unilever Ghana is into the manufacturing of fast-moving consumer goods. The company segments include foods, home care and personal care. The foods division includes spreads, tea, savory, oils and health and wellness. The home care division comprises laundry and household care categories. The personal care division includes skin cleansing and oral categories. This year's annual general meeting was held virtually, with just a few members attending in person while others joined online. The board chairman of Unilever Ghana, Mr. Edward Efa, said a spike in inflation from 7.5% in May 2021 to 23.6% in April 2022 is having a toll on operations of the company.
The global economy continues to recover slowly from the COVID-19 pandemic. The emergence of new variants increased uncertainties about when we'll return to normal. The pandemic resulted in supply chain disruptions and rising input prices, which have resulted in high inflation globally. For developing economies in particular, the worsening pandemic impact has resulted in the slowdown in growth projections.
The managing director of Unilever Ghana, Mr. George Owusu-Ansah, said cash and cash equivalent were in deficit of 26 million Ghana cedis in 2021, compared with a deficit position of 0.9 million Ghana cedis in 2020. This, according to Mr. Owusu, was largely due to efforts in securing foreign currency to service payables.
In spite of these global and health challenges, your company achieved the following against our 4 growth pillars. First, a top-line growth of 23% versus prior year. We improved our profitability by 100% versus prior year. 38% of our portfolio gained shares, and we continued our work to make Ghana and the world healthier through our sustainability programs.
The company remains positive about the year 2022 and beyond. Shareholders voted to elect new directors and also approved remuneration for directors as well as independent auditors.
The board of the African Development Bank has endorsed the proposal that the IMF special drawing rights of the African countries be channeled through the African Development Bank to help raise enough capital for the continent. The president of the African Development Bank is confident the bank's efforts to raise more capital will not increase the continent's debt but reduce it. This was part of the final communique of the just ended AFDB meetings. Our reporters are at the venue with some highlights.
All right, so the 5-day African Development Bank annual meeting here at the Accra International Conference Center has finally come to an end. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the Vice President of Ghana, performed the closing ceremony. So the discussions have centered on making the AFDB the premier bank on the continent, raising more capital to finance Africa's infrastructural deficit, helping to alleviate poverty, and also help in the process of transitioning to green energy. And so in the end, there were some key agreements which are captured in what has become known as the Accra Declaration. Key amongst them is channeling a portion of the Africa's special drawing right from the IMF, which is $100 billion, through the African Development Fund, so that that particular fund can go onto the market and raise more patient capital for development. There were also key agreements on raising some $40 billion for South Africa to assist its energy transition to green energy, and some key other recommendations captured in the Accra Declaration. The only issue has been the fact that there are no conclusivities and timelines to a lot of these key discussions and proposals that were made prior to the AFDB meeting. My colleague Sani Abdurrahman, he has been covering this particular event with me. So Sani, we sat through the press conference, and I was particularly concerned, and I asked the president whether there are timelines, especially to helping the African Development Fund go onto the market to raise more capital for Africa. But what else do you have by way of agreements and conclusions after this meeting?
Well, we've heard the African Development Bank wanting to develop index investment bond to cushion economies from global shocks going forward, such as the COVID-19, the war in Ukraine, because really the Western world has this kind of facility that it provides some sort of support to their economies to ensure that the impact is mitigated and livelihoods are not badly affected. We've also heard from the president wanting to push through a 10-year plan for the African Development Bank so that it can have a short to medium plan. When he goes out of office, even in 2025, the plan will be sustained. But really, back to the question that you asked about the timelines. The issue of leveraging the equity of the African Development Bank, for example, to raise capital on the international market, I've been wondering, will the shareholders, aside the fanfare in Accra, aside the all that we've seen since Monday? Will they be looking at ensuring that they walk the talk? Because look at Glasgow, for example, COP26. There were pledges to the tune of $100 billion. So far, what has been done in that regard? Not much, and we are seeing leaders calling on the Western world to honor their promises. Accra Declaration, from here, where do we move next? Are we going to allow the African Development Bank to use the ADF equity to raise capital, or we just come to Accra, agree and have fanfare and go back and we'll set bottlenecks to make this thing not being realized?
So listening to the finance minister answering that particular question of timelines, now he begins to raise challenges about the fact that the ADF is a concessionary loan. It has a lot of donor funding, from Japan, from US and all that. And so if you went to the market to raise funds with such a fund, which does not have reliability of inflows, then the interest rate is going to be high. Then for me, it means that we are not starting this anytime yet.
That is really true, and you could see he was not ready to give clear timelines as to how this would be operationalized, and the AFDB president had to refer the question to Ghana's finance minister to answer, and that's really a problem, because if the fund has some sort of reliability as far as donor funds are concerned, it means they will wake up one day, and if there's any sort of shock like we are seeing now, they will have to adjust whatever sort of donor support that they are giving to the ADF, and that means the revenue that the fund is expecting to also leverage to raise on the capital market would not be seen, and that is really a major problem.
For me, one of the only concrete things that we've seen is the $40 billion to the South African government. South Africa is going through a lot of energy challenges, and so even before this conference, I've heard the president talk about releasing those funds to South Africa. But also importantly is Africa's energy transition, and it's become emphatic that moving forward we still have to rely more on gas. If we are going to transition into green energy, it must be fair, it must be real. I mean, we are not just going to hasten and follow the Western world and say we are transitioning and so we move on, even when it's going to impact and affect our economies.
Well, very quickly, Maurice, and that has been backed by numbers. He tells you that even if Africa triples its use of natural gas, it's going to emit less than 0.4%. Which means it's not significant compared to what the Western world that is pushing this agenda is even emitting, and that's really good. It's going to help transform the African economy. Of course, the industry needs such sources of energy to diversify and also meet the productivity demand.
Thank you very much, and so this has been our coverage of the AFDB meeting here at the Accra International Conference Center. The next AFDB meeting is going to be in Egypt, because the new board, the chair of the board of governors is from Egypt. The central bank governor of the Bank of Egypt is now the new chair of the board of governors of the AFDB. So the next conference is going to be in Egypt. We'll hand over to you back in the studios to continue.
So much, Maurice and Samni Abdul Rahman. And the Accra Declaration ends the annual meeting of the AFDB here in Accra. This segment was brought to you by QNet. Next is Energy News.
In its efforts to promote safety at gas stations across the country, the Ministry of Energy, in collaboration with the Association of Oil Marketing Companies, has developed a health, safety and environment manual for the downstream petroleum sector. The manual, among other things, requires the National Petroleum Authority to present quarterly safety reports to the Energy Ministry indicating the required government interventions.
The Association of Oil Marketing Companies is seeking to push safety at the pumps beyond the wearing of boots and reflectors. The agenda is to create a sustainable culture of safety embraced by persons who operate in the downstream petroleum sector. At its 5th annual Safety Week in Accra, Chief Executive of the association, Mr. Kweku Ajimanduya, stressed the need to ensure safety at all times at the pumps.
It has been proved beyond reasonable doubt that the world over that there's a correlation between safety and health at any work environment and productivity. Improvements in safety for workers and general public can be financially rewarding to any organization and subsequently spread benefits to other stakeholders. Adopting safety practice goes beyond the provision of reflectors, boots and helmets. But this encompasses the development of a deep interest and desire to embrace safety in everything that we do. Through a change in our behavior, safety is in one's mind, it's your conviction in doing things right.
A Deputy Energy Minister, Mr. William Oreku Edu, spoke about the safety manual for the industry.
The manual contains safety protocols that cuts across HSC management systems, standard operating procedures, and incident notification and investigation. The HSC status update, and this program being run at the moment in the ministry, where the downstream regulator is required to present quarterly updates on HSC performance to the ministry.
The week-long celebration will include fire training session where members will be taken through preventive and proactive methods of preventing fire. According to the Association of Oil Marketing Companies, petroleum accident brings tears while safety brings cheers.
From a study conducted by the Global Center on Adaptation, GCA, and the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, 54% of hydro dams in the country are exposed to floods. It also shows that a further 23% will suffer drought under a high hazard climate risk situation by 2050. And that ends the energy news. Health is up next.
Speed up efforts to scrap off the taxes on menstrual products and make period-friendly facilities accessible to girls and women. This plea was made at the commemoration of this year's Menstrual Hygiene Day. The 20% levy exists because sanitary pads are categorized as luxury products per the Ghana Revenue Authority guidelines.
Ghana, the tax imposed on sanitary pads makes the product inaccessible to poor and vulnerable women and girls across the country. The Ghana Revenue Authority classifies sanitary pads as luxury items and attract 20% import tax levy. Key interest groups committed to improving menstrual health are concerned about the health, socio-economic and psychological impact of this problem on the lives of women and girls, particularly in rural communities. They are calling on the government to treat sanitary products as health necessities and not as luxuries, and to remove the tax placed on them.
What is preventing government from implementing the policy that would make menstrual products affordable? Why do we still have the 20% tax on menstrual products? What are the reasons? What are their concerns? What alternatives do they have? Because we can't keep talking about the same thing. Every year we come around and we bemoan the same problem.
To advocate and raise awareness of the challenge girls and women face during their menstrual period, May 28 has been set aside to mark Menstrual Hygiene Day every year globally. This year, the Ghana Education Service is emphasizing on encouraging women to be confident during menstruation. Stakeholders, chiefs and religious leaders were urged to get involved in creating awareness to address the issue of stigmatization. The Ministry of Water and Sanitation say they are partnering with vulnerable areas to provide ultra-modern toilet facilities with changing rooms for females and ensure the free flow of clean water. Dubbed, we are committed to creating a Ghana where every girl and woman have access to period-friendly facilities. Financial constraints still remains a hurdle for many girls and women.
On our part, as a health ministry, we have developed and made the operation a costed national water sanitation and hygiene, and then infection prevention and control strategy, which is intended to ensure that there is adequate provision of wash and IPC facilities at our healthcare delivery facilities.
UNICEF, World Bank, Sanitation and Water Project, and many other developmental organizations partnering the Ghana Education Service say scrapping of the levy will reduce the cost of imported sanitary pads.
And here are some tidbits on malaria. Lufat.